welcome everybody to our live stream, our weekly book club. This evening we are reading from The Holiness of God by C Sproul. There we go. And as a result, people, they find out about us and they want to join us. Such an individual has come across our paths this week, and I'm going to introduce everybody now. So, the gentleman that you see on the left, that's our friend and brother Jack. Just wave, Jack. Say hi if you like. And everybody, of course, is familiar with our brother Alex, and the generic phone icon for our brother Dan. And, of course, that's me in the bottom right corner. Just before we go to that permanently, I just want to say welcome to the Twitch stream. And if you have questions, go to BereanNation.com. Use either the email address or the phone number on that website, and we'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Having said that, we are beginning, if I'm not mistaken, in Chapter 10, Looking Beyond Shadows. Now, it's been a little while, and I promise I've slept since last Friday. Who read the week before? And last week, nobody read, because all we did was ask 3 questions. Okay. And all right. So, Alex, I'm going to ask you to start the reading this evening. Page 183 in my copy of the book. I know you guys are using a different edition, so. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Copernican. I'll just stop you there for a quick sec, Alex. Copernicus was the fellow who started that revolution, and it was its previous models of the universe had Earth in the center, and everything revolved around it. But Copernicus actually, with some math smarts, figured out that everything went around in our solar system, the sun, that's really as big as he got. He published the book. This is a nice trick. 2 years after he died, so that the church couldn't put him into weird trouble about it. But yeah, that's Copernicus and the Copernican revolution. The previous understanding was written down by a guy named Ptolemy. So Ptolemaic versus Copernican is the discussion. That's pretty amazing, that number, yeah? Hey, speak for yourself. I have a science degree. Yeah, yeah. Good to speak the truth. Amen. There's a certain point there. The distances in the universe are so vast that I'm not sure any human being can actually wrap their head around it. So, oh no, 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 no. That's not correct, and I can explain if you like. In fact, maybe I should, just for the odd atheist who might show up and accuse us of that. I'm going to take over the screen for a sec. Okay, so the phrase "the God of the gaps" is basically, oh, we can't explain something, so we just throw God into the gap to fill it in. When in actual fact, that's not what we believe, and it's certainly not what R.C. Sproul believed, because our belief is that God is the single source for all of creation, no matter where it is or how far from us it may be. Is Earth at the center, therefore, of the universe? Probably not. Is it relevant? Probably not. Are there other creatures in the universe? Of course there are. There's a debate among some of us about what they could be, but listen, we don't believe in, if we don't understand it, it's a mystery, it must be the will of God. That's not who we are. And in fact, most scientists before about 1940 or 1945 were men of deep faith who studied science specifically to learn more about their God and how he made the universe. The problem actually started in my field, which is biology, with a fella by the name of Thomas Henry Huxley. He's the guy that took Darwin's Origin of Species and really gave it legs. He was a smart man, and there have been a lot of other smart men who have worked very hard to make the theory of evolution, quote unquote, try to make sense to people. The problem is you still have to beat the second law of thermodynamics, and this is something that it just doesn't do. Anyway, I'm going to get off course here, but it's not just the God of the gaps. It's the God of everything. And I would accuse them of being weak-minded and unable to really look deeply into the face of God to try to discover what that truth is, rather than just name-calling off the top of their head. Anyway, I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, these are not the answers you're looking for. Thank you. Pretty much, actually. The to flip the script, that's what you'd want to do. Well, there's a sort of a problem trying when you try to eliminate things like the supernatural. How can you be sure? Really, how can you be sure? If you are truly scientifically minded, you have to allow for the fact that you don't understand everything. So the guys that come in the middle and start preaching like they know everything, and I'm looking at you, Richard Dawkins. I'm sorry, but that's not accurate. Imagine 20 years back what our understanding of immunology and virology was, and then because it was very, very, very far back from where it is now. Now, what would have happened if COVID would have been introduced to the world 20 years ago? Yeah, but we'd have been locked down for longer because people would have been panicking, not really having the mind to do the research to find out what was going on. Yeah. Yeah, although I imagine software like this would have been written within the first year. So, yeah. Oh, I agree, but my point, there was a bit 20 years ago. There was a basic effort at making a kind of software where you could display your face in a simulated room like we're doing tonight. Um, yeah, I understand all of that. And that's a whole other issue, right? That just adds a layer of complexity, really. But but I said 20 years ago, and that was 2001, so I didn't go back. No, it's true, but that's true. But I actually used some of that video conferencing software in 1997, so it was around. It's just the technology, like the webcams. The webcam that I'm using right now is built into the computer I'm using, but sitting there and here, look, you can see where my hand is getting brighter, and there's the shadow of the outline. That's actually a light that's part of another webcam that is not currently being used because it's actually hooked up to the computer that's over here. I bought it for $80, and I would have had to pay well over $500 in 1997. So it was hideously expensive. The miniaturization, and it would have also like been, it would have needed its own stand just to stand on my desk, and we don't need that problem. We don't have that problem anymore. So yeah, and that's kind of my point. This all wouldn't have been possible. And now here, look at us. Yeah, I got it and I appreciate it. And now look at us. Here we go, right? We have a weekly net meeting. Actually, we have more than one, but we'll, we have four. Well, that's why I used a modifier. I said net meeting, as in internet meeting. So, but yeah, sure, if you like session. And we actually have four of those every week. We have, well, there's this one. Then on Sunday afternoons, starting at 3, we sit down and watch a movie. I don't know what the movie's going to be, so it's a Christian themed movie. I get them off of a free TV service called Tubi. It's perfectly legal to show it. And anyway, there's that. Then there's the Monday meeting. We don't actually live stream that. We take that off air. And then we have our Thursday Bible studies. That's 4 meetings every week that we use this stuff for. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Portland, Minneapolis. Sorry, I have a bit of a cough. Oh, hey, we've gotten political before. So far, they haven't kicked us off. So, uh, No, just trying to keep her from walking on the keyboard. Here you go, sweetie. It's right here. Yep. Especially when you're running about 8 different pieces of software to make the broadcast come together. So, uh, s- no, I'm able to shut that one down and put it to the side. Yeah, we have a special shelf for her. Mhm. Yeah, but it's actually still pretty easily refuted. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. In fact, for somebody to say something like that, it's actually really, really easy to flip the script on, especially the hallucinatory theory. Yeah, of course, because hallucinations can be touched, and hallucinations can actually eat fish and consume it, right? So, yeah, yeah, all at the same time. Well, it's called a mass hallucination. Now, to be fair, there there is precedence in the human species for this kind of thing. It happened in, I want to say, Spain. Um, I can't remember what the name of the phenomenon was called, but it was really Catholic-y. Um, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the one. Portugal. Portugal. Hey, yeah, well, right next door, right? Somehow that's always my case. I'm usually right next door. When they turn the stereo up, from 0 to 10, they turn it up to like 12. I'm right next door. And when they're having their drunken blowouts and breaking windows and letting dogs bite people, I'm right next door. Well, those guys actually moved out. Um, as it turns out, a different neighbor than me called bylaw on them, and bylaw showed up, and then the police showed up because a couple of these guys were what was called known to police. uh, yeah. So yeah, just not a not a good thing. Jack, did you move to an old folks home? Did you move to an old folks home, Jack? Yeah. Nice. Geez, pool party at Jack's in July, I think, guys. Ah, doesn't matter. I'm vaccinated. Or at least that's the way we identify. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. Now, I've had both doses, but I'm not entirely sure it was the right thing to have done because under the dictionary definition, at least the dictionary definition 2 months ago, because they have kind of stealth edited the definition at Oxford. But under the previous definition, the vaccine actually isn't a vaccine. It's experimental gene therapy. So, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Gee, it's never happened before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty much the point. Yeah. That's the point. $42 of them. Well, I agree, but here's the thing. Um, who are those boys? Those boys were sinners, just like we all are. And they proved their sinfulness by attacking God's known prophet, who had already demonstrated his power. And they had the boldness to verbally assault him. What God chose, well, so they were throwing stones at the guy? And and you're surprised that something bad happened to them? They were, well, if they were throwing rocks at Elijah, is that not what their intent was? What was the death penalty method for the average person in the Old Testament? Death by stoning. So they were throwing rocks at him, trying to hit him. Yeah. Hmm. Don't forget Isaiah. Sure you do. Uh huh. I know exactly what you mean, brother. I do. I do. Ooh, you haven't been hanging around with me, have you? Polemical bugger. But not that way. Oh no, pun fully intended. Yeah. Hmm. Hate it when that happens. Hmm. That's actually true, and yet we are right. I mean, there's something almost kind of paradoxical about it in a way. I'm sitting in my basement, but I'm talking with three of my best buds who are looking me in the eye. You know, two times out of three, right? I mean, it's Hmm. Uh, yeah, she's sitting on my knee right now. Occasionally, you can even see her in this corner of the screen, so it's. Yes. Yes, we're talking about you. Yeah. You know what the really funny part of this is? She can't hear you. I'm wear I'm wearing headphones and using a mic. Yeah. Well, no. Culturally, there is some concern here because you want to talk about God of the gaps. Here you go, right? When ancient man, who had at this point very greatly apostatized from the living God and had no knowledge of him intellectually at least, started to see things like the mighty lion take down the stag on the savannah kind of thing. You know, his God in his brain took on a lion's face. See what I mean? Um, and he would begin to, I guess the term these days is culturally appropriate the image that he saw, and he would call that God. Or if there would be lightning strikes and a big bolt of lightning came and it hit the tree and it made him feel a little numb and a little funny because he was standing too close to the tree and then the tree burned. That was God. And look, I can understand that. There is some cultural basis for this. But by and large, we shouldn't look at something we don't understand and go, ooh, that must be God. God also gave us brains and the ability to use them, and He expects us to do so when we are confronted with things that are not immediately obvious. Read Ecclesiastes, you'll see that's what Solomon's talking about in many respects. So, squirrel! Things are looking up. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. You had to. What's that? I don't know. We got to get a little closer. Well, can't you like create a magnifying glass? Not with that much power. Come on, let's go. It's a well, I could, but it'd be a waste of resources. It's like so. Well, the two are actually the same thing. Yeah, it is. It is. Uh, exactly right. You see it best in Hosea, but it's yeah, yeah, yeah. So not only are you a whore, you're a stupid whore. you know. No, seriously, that's what he was trying to say. It's most plain in Hosea, but yeah, well, that's what God said though. It's actually in the book of Hosea. Go ahead, read through it. It's oh, he does. He especially likes to play word games. Well, did you know that the phrase born again can also be translated born from above? Yeah. And it's deliberately to use that phrase in Greek or in Hebrew apparently, it's deliberately playing a word game. So when Jesus said you must be born again to Nicodemus, he was kind of fishing him, yeah. Well, and that just kind of goes to show you, right? We don't get it either. It's, but it was a great joke if you think about it. And he's not above using them. I mean, look, I'm here and I'm one of his servants. Now, can there be a bigger joke? Yeah, probably, but not many. I mean, you know. Ow, 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 ow. Sorry, I sat on something. Cheer up. Look, I think when you realize that you are your own joke, life gets a lot easier, doesn't it, Jack? Yeah. Sure. Hmm. Well, we're glad you're here. So, yeah, I think that's actually pronounced Rijksmuseum, because that's a Dutch word. So, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. That's like saying a duck has the appearance of a duck. You know. Well, it only has the appearance of design. That's right, it does because it was designed. You know. Yeah. Actually, it's the brain that receives the image upside down. It translates it for us. But sorry, that was a third year psychology course. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, what are the statistical odds that with only 13 billion years at hand for this to have happened, what are the statistical odds that that piece of organic technology evolved on its own? I think there was something like 178 zeros after the number. So 1 times 10 to the 178th. But at a certain point, well, there's still a chance, right? The problem is, yeah, exactly, yeah. And those statistics are a lot higher than that number, right? But at a certain level of your exponents, it becomes absolutely absurd. Uh, for example, did you know that there is a limit to how small something can get? 10 to the minus 44th angstroms. At, smaller particles than that lose a very interesting property. They lose the property of locality. So it means that if we were able to observe something that was 10 to the minus 45th small, we would literally have to look everywhere at once. It loses locality, it's everywhere. And that's how we would observe it. So, a degree further away. Yeah. And the ideal angle for seasons to occur regularly and evenly over the face of the Earth is 23.5 degrees. Guess what the axis of the Earth is? Look, at a certain point, it just becomes too cumbersome to believe the fake ideology, I guess, because it's the kind of thing they try to indoctrinate you with. And they worked really hard at it in university, I got to tell you. I've been through it. Um, at a certain point, it just becomes too difficult to believe because Yeah, but there's God, and He's everywhere. So when your particle loses locality, where does that leave you? Well, what else has the property of being everywhere at once? So not only is God really, really, really big, God is also really, really, really small down into the finer details. So fine we can't see him. You know, here's a math conundrum for you. Um, we live in really three dimensions: length, width, height. If you add time, that's length, width, height carried over a scale of time, so four dimensions. The other six dimensions to get to the number 10 are said to reside in 10 to the minus 33rd space. It's that small. So what that means, I have no idea. But that's true. But who says there's a limit at 10 dimensions? I think there has to be at least 11. So anyway, that's all kind of weird astrophysics. You know, theory of the unification of the universe and M and string and all of that stuff. So let's not start, or we will be here all night. True. Now I gotta wipe my screen off. Big Bang Theory. Yeah, we'll mute you. Yeah, go ahead. He's muted. So yeah. Ooh, really? Sorry, I'm not a presuppositionalist. So actually, I'm not sorry about that. But yeah, not a presup guy. So the simple reason is that with presup you have to presume certain things, and that seems to me to be a little too circular. So if you want some really interesting stuff on that, a good website is for the New Christian Intellectual. I believe it's christianintellectual.com. Check it out anyway. That's brother Cody Leibold and Jacob Brunton. They run that thing. Seriously, these guys are really good, really smart, really well exercised brothers that I think really know their stuff. And anyway, go ahead, check them out. I'll give them a shout out here on the channel. If I can remember to do that, yes. How's that? So- what? Were we talking? Jack is back. Well, she loves you, brother. So do we. Hmm. Yeah, it does. Hmm. Could you imagine that? God interviewed by good old Baba Wawa. Remember her, Baba Wawa? Let's leave Kyle alone. Leave Kyle alone, guys. He's got enough problems, including a speech impediment. We don't want to make fun of it. Um, yeah, you know why we want to make fun of it? It's because the guy claimed to be a battle rapper back in high school when he was a secret member of the Crips gang, and the guy can't even pronounce battle rapper. He can't pronounce the letter R. He sounds exactly like Elmer Fudd. I'm not making it up. You know, no, he can't. It's actually a known disability. So he gets twigged, not triggered, twigged. You know, and yeah, Barry Kripke. That's the guy. Yeah, but except Kyle J. Howard claims to be a Christian, but he's not. Yeah, but you want to know something else? He's not one of those either. No, he's a critical race theorist. Critical race theorist. Yeah. No, you pronounce the R's like W's. Yeah, critical. Be very, very quiet. Today we are hunting rabbits. Oh, look, there's one now. Yeah, Elmer Fudd. Yeah, but look, and look, I actually work for one of the organizations that kind of blew the whistle on him, and we still have a $3,000 reward for anyone who can provide evidence that he was ever a battle rapper or a member of the Crips gang. That reward has been out there for 3 years, actually closing on four, because I think we set it up in July 2017. So 4 years this year. Yeah. So that being said, no one has ever claimed it. And I know Jordan, he'll pay it. Speaking of which, I got to call him. I didn't get paid. But anyway, uh, that's okay. It's not important to you. You know how you talk to yourself out loud? I happen to do it in front of people occasionally. Sorry. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, we can do that. All right. So, I'll just start with the next paragraph unless anybody has any more commentary. Going, going, gone. All right. So, he begins, have you ever met Michael Jordan? Not personally, no. How would I answer that question if it were asked of me? I could answer it in two different ways. I could say, yes, I've met Michael. I've seen him and talked to him. Or I could say, no, I've never met the man. Both of those answers are true as far as they go. I have seen Michael Jordan. I've seen him on television. I've spoken to him. I've shouted at him while watching the Bulls play on television. Yet it is also true that I've never met the man. Usually, when we talk like this, we add the qualifier in person. We understand the difference between the real person and the image of the person. Paul is saying that the real person of God is really known through the real revelation that takes place in the real realm of nature. But the problem is, yeah, really, really. But there it is. But the problem is that in the case of God, we distort our knowledge of him by replacing him with an image that we create ourselves. This is the essence of idolatry, replacing the reality with a counterfeit. We distort the truth of God and reshape our understanding of him according to our own preferences, leaving us with a God who is anything but holy. Again, it's important to note that Paul does not bring a universal indictment against humanity for the failure to know God. That is not our problem. It's not that we fail to know that God is and who God is. It is that we refuse to believe what we know to be true. Here we face a problem that is not an intellectual problem. It's a moral problem. It is the problem of dishonesty. All idolatry is rooted in this fundamental dishonesty. Paul describes this in terms of an exchange, which is a dishonest exchange. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator who is forever praised. Amen. And that's Romans 1:25. The dishonest Oh yeah. Got something to say, say it. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's not that we don't recognize reality, it's that we refuse to acknowledge that we recognize its reality. That's the basic dishonesty that he's talking about here. Um, and it's somebody, it's I'm reminded of that line from Spaceballs. Oh no, I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. Really? Yeah, swear to God. It's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. And that's the point, right? It's so self-contradictory that you got to laugh. It's It was the main character. I can't remember the guy's name. It's no. He played their version of Darth Vader. The guy who was playing their version of Han Solo. Yeah, may the Schwartz be with you. Let's not even go there. Well, Yeah, it was that guy. Is that his name? Okay. All right. All I remember was John Candy was dressed up like a mutt dog, and he was their version of Chewbacca. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, exactly that guy. Sorry, just for Alex who was out of his room. Uh, we talked a little bit about that. It's kind of a dishonest exchange that's in view uh, of the creature of for the creator. God uses reality as the medium that he reveals himself in. And it's not that we don't know who God is, and it's not that we don't know what God is, it's that we will refuse to acknowledge it even to ourselves. And I said it reminded me of that line from Spaceballs. Oh, no, I don't believe in that. I'm an atheist. Really? Yeah, swear to God. So, it's and somebody said, "Oh, that's really funny." But what's funny about it is that the line itself really shows how ridiculous it is because it's so self-contradictory. I'll continue here. The dishonest exchange that is in view here is the substitution of the creature for the creator, an exchange that is dishonest precisely because we know better. Now, you may have heard it phrased like this: man created God in his own image. And in some ways, we did. And it's pretty strange. Yeah, and it's pretty weird what you can turn into a god. Your television can be your god. I'm not saying anybody here has that issue besides me, because I watch it. I didn't ask for a show of hands. Okay, but you think about it. How much time do you spend reading the Word, or studying the Scriptures, or praying, and how much time do you spend watching television or playing video games? Yeah, and that's kind of the problem, right? But that means that your TV or your video games became your god, doesn't it? You know, um, I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting for it, so you may as well. Hmm. No, I just wanted to make sure it didn't knock over the Pepsi bottle. Right now, she's crawling across the back of my desk, and now she's coming down to the other side again. Yeah, she'll be right here. So she's right here now. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have any Velcro that I could stick her to the wall, so. No, she's a good kitty cat, for the most part. Yeah, I did. I'm just not acknowledging it, since that's what we're reading about. So it's a. Anyway, all right. So the late Carl Sagan spoke of the sense of awe and reverence that he felt when he contemplated the intricacies of the cosmos. But Sagan made it clear that this reverence was not for the author of the cosmos, but for the cosmos itself. Sagan's response to the stars was diametrically opposed to the psalmist's response. The psalmist was moved to worship the God who created nature and reveals himself through nature, not to worship nature itself. This reflects the essential differences between godliness and paganism. Pagans confuse the creature and the creator. They attribute the glory that properly belongs to God to the creature. Now we remember that Paul sees human sin in people's refusal to honor God as God. This refusal is done even though people know the eternal power and deity of the Creator. This refusal to honor God as God is what I think Paul has in mind when he asserts that people refuse to believe what they know is true about God. The striking conclusion we reach from the apostles' teaching is that God's holiness is not an obscure or arcane secret that may be discovered only by some spiritually elite group of people. In other words, we're not Gnostics. Okay? Rather, God's holiness is on display daily for everyone to see. Again, it's not merely that it's available to be seen for those who earnestly search for it. Although, I'm going to pause here for a sec. For those that do earnestly search for it, they will find it. And that's a promise of Christ. Yeah, that's true. That word for drew in the Greek means dragged, kicking, and screaming. Tell me more about resistible grace? Yeah. No. So, really? I kind of muffed the Scottish accent on that. Sorry. I just peel back the layers of the onion. Ogres have layers! Rather, Paul's point is that God's holiness is seen, and it is seen clearly. Elsewhere, the apostle indicates that the knowledge of God that is given through creation is not a knowledge we warmly receive and embrace. Instead, it is our nature to abhor this knowledge of God's holiness. It is characteristic of the reprobate mind not to want to retain God in our knowledge. We prefer to change the holy into something less than holy. It is this rejection of God's majesty that leaves us with minds that are darkened. It results in a massive foolishness that has disastrous consequences for our lives. Once we refuse to honor God as God, our whole view of life and the world becomes distorted. This is actually, I think, exactly what's happening in North American society at large right now. All you Christians are just all muckety mucks. You believe this and you believe that, and well, hallelujah for you. Go stand in the corner and praise your God. That's not what we believe, and we're not gonna because we want our sin. That's pretty much what they say. Whatever their sin is. And oh Lord help me, there's lots of iterations of what that could be, right? I mean, no, no, not equality. Not the word is not equality, it is equity. Equity is the new equality, and it doesn't mean the same thing at all. Yeah. 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 We have so much tolerance for everybody, unless you're a Christian. Believe me, I've been on the receiving end of something like that more than once. So, you know. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to continue before we get kicked off of Twitch. All right, so hang on. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, let's return to Psalm 8. Before the psalmist speaks of his contemplation of the stars and the moon and the heavens, he utters a poignant doxology. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. And that's verse 1 of that psalm. Uh, yeah, the crucial point that is affirmed by the psalmist is that God's glory is above the heavens. The glory of God transcends all creaturely glory. Indeed, what glory may be found in this world is borrowed or derived from the Creator's hand. The psalmist is obviously a regenerate man. The psalmist is pleased to honor God as God and to acknowledge the truth of the revelation given in nature. He lifts his eyes above and beyond the splendor of the heavens and rejoices in the glory that is revealed through them. Wow. Yes, they can. They don't mean it, but I mean, a line from I can't remember the name of the poem now, but the line is, but beauty is truth, and truth beauty, and that is all you need to know. No, that's a line from a very old, very famous poem whose name I can't remember. I don't know. Well, yeah, but they won't acknowledge that, right? And that's the whole. Yeah. Well, actually, I disagree, but only slightly. They do know who created them. They won't acknowledge it, not even to themselves. Because if they acknowledge that, then they know that they're accountable to Him for all of their evil deeds. So, yeah, swear to God. All right, I'll continue. Sure, sure. You know, that rings a bell, so possibly. I just don't remember. It does sound like Keats, though. Mm. Well, it just means you have to go become one yourself, right? Because, my grandmother, she was a fountain of wisdom and stuff like this. I would say, hey, Grandma, who said that? And I guarantee you she'd read the book. You know, but you know what? When she passed away, she left me her book collection, and it's right over there. I'm looking right at it right now. I've read maybe a third of them. So, well, yeah, I spent a lot of time in that particular work. But she read that book too. And it turns out I think she was a Christian because you could reason with her from the scriptures. And anyway, there's a whole other thing there, but um shall I continue? All right. In his work The Republic, Plato uses an illustration that has become famous. Plato tells of men who are chained in the dark interior of a cave. They receive warmth and light from a small fire. All that the men can observe are the flickering shadows cast on the wall of the cave by the fire. This is the extent of their vision. All the reality that they know is that of the shadows. It is not until they are liberated from the confines of the darkness and emerge into the light of day that they can perceive reality as it is. In the meantime, they confuse the shadows on the wall with the real truth. Plato's analogy was designed to illustrate the differences between what he called knowledge and opinion. Opinion rests on assumptions drawn from shadows. One of my problems with Precept, actually. It fails to penetrate truth. For Plato, all knowledge that rests solely on observations of this external world is not true knowledge, but a mere shadow of the truth. To get to the truth, one must get beyond the immediate realm of sense perception to the eternal realm of ultimate reality. He sought to go beyond the phenomena to the ultimate truth and reality. Though Plato's analogy was written centuries ago, actually at this point millennia ago, it may be a fitting commentary of the spirit of our own age. We pride ourselves in modern science's explosion of knowledge of the external world. The expansion of the scope of our knowledge has moved well beyond the limits imposed by our naked powers of perception. We probe the realm of the infinitesimal by means of the microscope and the realm of the distant by the means of the telescope. Our vision of the near and of the distant now far exceeds what was reached by previous explorations. Yeah, yeah. Really? How about the wind? No, you don't see the wind, you see the effects of the wind. You have to be precise here. You don't see the wind. Let's see who else talked about the wind. Oh yeah, it was the Lord Jesus. He said, being born again is kind of like the wind. You don't see the wind. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know where it's going to. You can see its effect as it passes by, but you have no control over it. Being born again is kind of like that. And he said it to Nicodemus, someone who, it's argued that Nicodemus was probably the chief ruler of the Jews. He was the head instructor at the academy kind of level, you know. So, yeah. That is kind of funny, yeah. Timing. Mm-hmm. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, the atheists would love me for that one. Oh, yeah, I can prove you wrong in one easy word, or two easy words. Your thoughts. I can't see them, therefore they must not exist, right? So, uh, mhm. True. It's not the sign the way it should have been done. Well, and listen, that's kind of the reality that we live with, isn't it? Because pretty much anything you see can be explained away as today I think they do it with something called computer generated imagery or CGI. That's the buzz phrase. And you can literally do anything with CGI. Of course, the actors that do the CGI stuff have the hardest time because they're dressed in like blue suits with little dots for reference points on it, and you know. Did anybody actually see the filming of Lord of the Rings when Andy Serkis was doing his Gollum bit? You know, Gollum's face is actually Andy Serkis, right? Now, badly modified, but it's actually Andy Serkis. And but he crawled around in a blue green suit that didn't show up for the camera, and that they could substitute the animated computer generated body of Gollum for. You know, it's one of the interesting issues that we have having these computer sessions that we have, because I'm sitting in front of my own theological library, but that library isn't there where you see it. It's there, and it's actually facing away from me. It forms kind of like a wall where I hope to put a bulletin board, etc. But whatever. Yeah. Yeah. But is it actually behind you? Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Right, I got you. Something like that, yeah. Except for the bricks that I occasionally take down to read. There we go. That's what I'm trying to show. Yeah, John MacArthur's commentary on Second Corinthians. There you go. Uh, no, it's because of the way Teams cameras work. But yeah, you have to move it closer to you. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There you go. It's basically his commentary notes from the scripture, isn't it? Yeah. Not exactly the same work. A lot of the same material is covered. It's not exactly the same stuff. That's the study Bible that the notes from the study Bible. This commentary series is actually based on actual lectures he gave over years. So, yeah, they literally took something like 42 years to compile. So, anyway, and of course, he did it a little at a time, but anyway, that's at least that's my understanding. No, no, he went out and actually served the Lord. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, okay. To continue, our v- our view of the world around us and the world above us has been so greatly enhanced that it would seem we have been catapulted into a majestic theater that gives daily displays of remarkable glory. Yet our view of the world is perhaps more earthbound and nearsighted than ever before. Ours is the age of myopia, an age in which we declare that the sum total of reality is the here and now. Oh, thank God that's not true. You know, this is an unprecedented kind of secularism. In our quest for liberation from the sacred and creaturely independence, we have succeeded only in cutting ourselves off from the sacred. We live in a smaller cave than Plato envisioned, and the shadows we behold are cast not by a roaring fire, but by rapidly cooling, smoking embers. Sorry, smoldering embers. Now it's going to get interesting. In his Institutes of the Christian Religion, 16th century theologian John Calvin offered another analogy, that of the blindfold. He argued that nature is a massive theater, indeed a glorious theater of divine revelation. But we walk through this theater as if we were wearing blindfolds. Calvin's point was not to deny that we actually receive knowledge from natural revelation. Rather, he was speaking of the state of people who willfully refuse to turn their gaze to the obvious. We put the blindfolds on ourselves, and then we stumble along cursing the darkness. The analogy is one designed to underscore human folly, which prefers darkness to light and creatures to creator. Well, if I could pause, there's reason for that. We looked at this a little bit last night in John chapter 3. It says, the light of the world came, and men loved darkness rather than the light because their deeds were evil. That's what that was about. Anyway, Calvin remarks, but as the greater part of mankind, enslaved by error, walk blindfold into this glorious theater, he exclaims that it is a rare and singular wisdom to meditate carefully on these works of God, which many, who seem sharp-sighted in other respects, behold without profit. It is indeed true that the brightest manifestation of divine glory finds not one genuine spectator among 100. Still neither his power nor his wisdom is shrouded in darkness. We are creatures who prefer life in the cave to the full light of the blazing sun. The glory of God is all around us. We cannot miss it. However, we not only fail to stop and smell the flowers, but we also fail to notice the glory of the flowers' maker. Indeed, the featured presentation in the Theater of Divine Majesty is in which we walk daily is God's glory. The psalmist declares that the sky and all of nature sing out God's glory and majesty. We see the inseparable link between God's holiness and His glory. His glory is the outward manifestation of His most perfect being. It is His heaviness or weightiness that is displayed. The Scripture frequently speaks of the cloud of God's glory that at times is made outwardly visible. It is the Shekinah. This glory cloud overshadowed the disciples on the Mount of Transfiguration. It served as the escort for Jesus in his ascension into heaven, and it will bear him when he returns. This glory cloud is so dazzling that it can affect blindness in those who look at it directly, as the Apostle Paul did on the road to Damascus. Funny they should mention Paul here, yeah? You know, kind of makes you wonder, did the Lord strike Paul blind, or did the Lord just reveal Paul's own blindness to him? Nah, he struck him blind, I think, because stuff fell out of his eyes. But whatever. Yeah. It's you're right. Let's not. Um, yeah, mine's upstairs in my bedroom. Institutes of the Christian Religion. Yeah, it's the Calvin. You just ordered Calvin. Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion. It's actually a 2-volume set, you know. Oh yeah, there you go. That's actually about right. They tend to put a lot of great theologians on some sale because apparently they don't think the books are worth very much. Uh, yeah, and we're kind of mispronouncing his name. His name was not John Calvin. It was Jean Calvin. He was French. Yeah. Although he lived in Switzerland. He lived in and moved to Switzerland. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which even then was kind of anti-biblical. So I don't know. Hippie Frank has really gone a long way off the mark. I'm just saying. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but his church in Geneva became the headquarters for a school of evangelism where he would train men to preach the gospel and, well, essentially do apologetics as responses to Catholics. And many of those men boldly went back to France and preached the gospel. And many of those men also ended up being burned at the stake. So, as atheists, they said, but whatever. you know. Well, it wasn't the first time in history, right? That's actually a very early Roman observation about Christians. These people are atheists. They don't believe in the gods. Yeah. 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 Should I continue? All right. When God's glory erupted in its full measure in biblical times, the result was terror in all who beheld it. But this cloud of glory is not only the manifestation of God's presence in the Bible. He appeared also in various theophanies, such as the burning bush, the pillar of fire, and the tongues of fire that fell at Pentecost. To a lesser degree, his glory is manifest everywhere at all times. It can no more be extinguished than the light of the sun. The sun may be obscured by cloud cover or even undergo periodic eclipses, but such phenomena do not utterly quench its light. Calvin used the metaphor of spectacles or eyeglasses to describe our perception of God's glory. He spoke of the spectacles of faith by which believers look beyond the surface of things to feast their eyes on the glory that is plainly there. The Bible speaks of those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. This reference is not to the ordinary power of the senses, but to the ability to cut through the darkness and cacophony to see and hear the truth. With regeneration, the scales fall from our eyes, I remark personally, as they did with Paul in Damascus. The scales fall from our eyes so that we can truly perceive what we see and truly understand what we hear. The capacity grows as we mature in our faith. A few years ago, I took up sketching and oil painting as a pastime. Sorry, I happen to like this because that's been one of mine for a number of years now. My amateur work will never adorn the walls of serious art galleries. Yeah, my painting. Well, you guys have been to my house. You've seen my paintings. But anyway. A guy out Carpway actually did he took a 4x8 sheet of plywood and he painted the thing all purple with a roller. He let that dry for a couple hours, and then he took another color of paint, red, and painted a big stripe down the middle, and he set it out by the end of his driveway, and it said, Voice of Fire, he put a sign up, Voice of Fire replica, $500. Within 15 minutes, somebody bought it. Yeah. And by the way, I happen to know the purchaser who signed the check or signed the release for the check to pay for Voice of Fire. I know him personally. He didn't like it either. So, just saying. Although I got to be really straight with you, it is somewhat of a wonder to me because the average paintbrush is about the size of this pen. Picture the brush thing being on the end that's away from my hand. Voice of Fire was painted with a brush like this. So yeah, I know it's Microsoft Teams. Anyway, actually, it's what I have in the background versus Microsoft Teams, but whatever. Anyway, where was I? A few years ago, I took up sketching and oil painting as a pastime. My amateur work will never adorn the walls of serious art galleries. I stumble along with this hobby, learning through trial and error, which is about the only way I can, In my earliest instruction, I was told to look at the world around me in a different way. I was taught to pay attention to nuances of shade and shadow, to observe color and texture. Before this exercise, when I passed trees along the road, I saw only trees. Now when I look at trees, I notice the peculiar texture of the bark and the colors highlighted in the leaves. These nuances were always there. I just never noticed them before. Each of these nuances has its own medium to announce the presence of God's glory. Psst, psst, psst. Up here, sweetie. Here you go, kitty. She's wandering around over here again. I think I'm her boyfriend. So, well, the male cat sure won't give her time of day. So, anyway, yeah, that'd be the one. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I'm at the part where it says we are engaged. Dan, could you take over here? Well, listen, I could do it. I'm fighting off a cat. That's all. All right. I'll just resume. Hang on. We'll see if we can save you the beginning of the next chapter. All right. So, when we are engaged with painting and other art forms, we are interested in beauty. The very concept of beauty is profoundly difficult to define. It is elusive and controversial. The discipline of philosophy has its own subcategory of aesthetics, which seeks to determine norms for beauty. Yeah, good luck with that. Historically, there have been many competing schools of aesthetic thought. Many people have concluded that there are no rules for beauty and that it is purely a subjective matter. Others, dating back to Aristotle and beyond that, have argued for objective criteria for beauty. The subjectivists find refuge in the slogan that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This tends to reduce beauty to personal taste or preference, such as found in the various flavors of ice cream. Here, one person's beauty is just another person's ugliness. On the other hand, some schools of thought have tried to find objective norms by which to judge beauty. Thinkers like Aristotle, Aquinas, and Edwards, for example, have seen beauty based in matters of proportionality, symmetry, complexity, harmony, and the like. The intricate symmetry of complex parts points to the elements of beauty. Though it is admitted that the simple may be beautiful, it is more often the harmonic composition of complex parts that point to beauty. We understand the difference between the presentation of stick figures and the structure of the human figure depicted in Michelangelo's work. Likewise, we note the difference between a child playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with one finger and a concert pianist playing Beethoven's Piano Concerto Number 4. I'm sorry, I have to pause there. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star was composed by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart at the age of 3, and its proper title is Theme and Variations. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Yeah. Now, he didn't just play it with one finger. He actually, made it sound good. But theme and variations, right? So, what emerges in great art and great music is a depth of dimension that does not quickly become stale or trite. Think, for example, of the difference between Bach's Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring and a current popular song or movie theme. Some popular songs endure for years, but most are short-lived. If, for example, you sat and listened to a popular song for 6 hours straight, chances are you would become bored with it. Yet, if you... Yeah, it really is. Yet, if you were to listen intently and continuously to a Bach masterpiece, and the piece tends to become more and more fascinating as you discover more intricate nuances to it. Sometimes people think that I'm strange when I mention the beauty of professional football games. How could something so primal and violent be said to contain any beauty? What I enjoy is watching superbly conditioned athletes who have reached the apex of their sport working together to execute a single movement. 11 men on one side of the ball each have a specific function to perform in a single play designed to advance the ball only a few feet, while another 11 men on the other side of the ball work together as a unit to prevent that progress. The execution of a... Yeah. And is played with a round ball and much larger nets and only uses the feet legally. Yes, I know what you meant. You realize... Yeah, more casual listeners indeed. North America, Canada, and the United States are actually the exception. The rest of the world calls what we call soccer football. So... No, mate, they call it rugby. Actually, they do have a version of it. It's called Australian Rules Football. Oh my goodness, it's brutal. Oh, hey, yeah, anybody who plays Australian Rules Football, that's like the definition of tough. Anyway, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, wow. How about that? Let me finish the paragraph. It's like 2 sentences. The execution of a play involves a kind of orchestration that requires harmony rather than dissonance. When the harmony is lost, the ball is fumbled or the play is otherwise thwarted. I'll stop there. I'll actually put the bookmark back in the book. Right there on page 194, last paragraph of 194. Somebody's going to have to help me with that one, because I'm going to remember that like I remember my own name at 3:30 in the morning. Oh, my name at 3:30 in the morning? Wow. All right. Okay, so there we are, guys. That's another night down. I'm going to take over the screen again here. So, for all you folks that are out there and watching this at some point, hopefully live on Twitch right now, but if not, we're a bunch of guys that hang around at a website called BereanNation.com. Check out the site. It's just like it sounds, the way it's spelled, BereanNation.com. There's an email address you can get a hold of us. There's a phone number you can call to try and get a hold of us. And there are all kinds of articles that we put up there, including replays of this kind of thing. That should be up sometime tomorrow, in fact. So, all of us here at Berean Nation want to say good studying out there, and it's my duty now to remind you that all Bereans have the responsibility to study the scriptures on a daily basis so that they can find out what's so for themselves and put it into action in their lives. Don't you do anything crazy out there. You all stay safe. God bless you.